North America's largest developer of dollar stores. Over 4,600 stores open since 1993. For more information, visit our website at dollarstoreservices.com.
I'd like to just briefly introduce myself. My name is John LaFronz. I'm the general manager here, and I've been here for 19 years actually as of today. This is my anniversary day, so had the opportunity to work with a lot of people over those years, and prior to that, I owned some stores of my own. I operated a wholesale business. I've done domestic buying. I've done overseas product sourcing and buying. So I've been grounded in discount retail pretty much my whole life. And hopefully there's some experience that I've gained that I can share with you as time goes by, either tonight or as we work together to develop your store. Good evening, welcome. So what I'd like to do is take just a couple of minutes, and I know some of you probably have spoken to someone here in our office, others of you may not have yet. So I'll just take about 10 minutes and talk about briefly what we do, what our store development program consists of. Then we'll talk about a few things that are happening in the industry that are pretty exciting right now, and then we'll kind of open the door to questions, and that's always the best part of the evening. So without further ado, again, I'm the general manager here at Dollar Store Services. We've been developing dollar stores, dollar type stores, since 1993 across the United States and around the world. We've done stores in any number of countries and working with a few owners outside the United States right now. We developed over 4,600 stores in that time, and we offer a comprehensive turnkey package that basically covers every aspect of opening and operating a dollar store. We do several different types of stores, which we'll talk about in a little bit. We do a dollar-only store, which is like the Dollar Tree before they took their markup to $1.25. We do a 1, 2, 3 store where everything is $3 or less. We also do a Dollar Plus store, which is, good evening, welcome. It's kind of like a Dollar General. And then we do couple specialty type stores too. We do a big box store that starts at 10,000 square feet. It's more like a mini grocery. So there's lots of different options, and as we move through the process, one thing that we always do is as we identify locations that may be better suited for one of those formats as opposed to another, we'll talk through those things, you and I, and we'll determine what might be the best option in each location that we're looking at. So our process consists, as I said, of 7 key services, all designed to get your store open as quickly as possible. And those are financing assistance, site location assistance, then we negotiate your lease agreement with you. Once the lease is finalized, we do a complete store setup, providing all the labor, the fixtures, the equipment, the labor, the interior signage, a cost, an allowance towards the cost of your outdoor sign, comprehensive training. You become a member of our merchandise network, which is really key because being in that network allows you to save 20 to 25% on merchandise costs versus what you would pay as an individual going to those very same suppliers. And then once you're open, you enjoy unparalleled long-term support. We stay with you for the life of your business. And for the first 90 days, our trainer and our merchandise manager is in contact with you virtually every day. After that first 90 days, if we feel and you feel that you've got your arms around the store, at that point, we move your store to a long-term coordinator's desk. And that person continues to provide that support, getting you new merchandise information, new supplier information, helping you get ready for every season and holiday, all with the goal of maximizing the potential within your business. So those services include, complete our entire package. You get all the retail store fixtures, the counters, display units, all the merchandise, of course, everything that I just described. And you pay us only one time. We're not a franchise, so there are never any fees or royalties, but you get all the benefits that a franchise could provide and more without having a franchisor tell you what you have to do each and every day. So those are our 7 key services. I'd like to carve back through each one for just a minute or two. And I know you'll have questions, and that's fine. We'll hit them all. In site location, we assign a team to work with you here in our office, a site locator and a leasing manager. They will talk to you. They'll discuss what areas that you would like to see your store developed in and what size, of course, you're going to develop. And then we identify each and every location that fits those parameters. We get you all the information about each and every one of them, population, demographics, traffic, all the information about the competitors, who they are and where they are. And you'll have access to a secure website that we developed some years ago. It's called EasyTrack. And you'll be able to see all of that information about every one of those locations, and we'll help you walk through them. If we find a location that you like and that we like, we'll negotiate on that location. And we will negotiate on any number of locations with you and for you, because we want to make sure, number one, that you see everything that's available. Number two, that we help you evaluate which ones might be the best options for you. And then three, once the negotiation is completed, we can help you compare and contrast one location versus another, because now we have all the information about every one. We know what the final rent is going to be. We know how much free rent you're going to get that we've negotiated for you. We know how the landlord is going to deliver the space for you, and so on. And one thing I kind of glossed over, and I want to back up for 1 second. Of course, one of the first things that we do, once you decide to come on board, you complete a brief application and deposit. It takes about 10 minutes. The deposit is $100, and it is fully refundable if you decide not to go forward, or you can't secure financing, or for any other reason at all. If you do go forward, that $500 deposit then becomes part of the purchase price of your store when you finalize your lease. So that deposit is never at risk for you, and we'll return it to you at any time that you request that. So never have a concern about that, and we do that every day of the year. Talking about finance for just a second, we have a number of different lenders available to us that we share with you, and they can address many different credit profiles. We have lenders that can work with home equity. We have lenders that can help you borrow against your 401k or your IRA account. And often we can secure up to 100% financing, including working capital, with a score of 700 or better. But again, we have lenders that address many different types of credit profiles. You know, if you have some bumps and bruises on your credit, which most of us do, we have a lender that can help you remedy those as well. So the one thing that I always say is that never assume that you can't get financing, because in my 19 years here, I've seen so many people that didn't think they could build a store, didn't think they could get the funding, and ultimately became store owners. So never say never. And we will know once you complete your application. We put you in immediate contact with our finance department. We assign an advisor to work with you. And you will know within 72 hours if you can get financing. If so, how much financing you can get, because that'll tell you what size store you can develop, and what the terms of that financing will be. So within 72 hours, with very rare exceptions, you'll have all that information in front of you, and you can make the decision as to whether or not you want to go forward. If you do, that's great. If you choose not to, or you're not in a position where you can at that point in time, of course, we refund your deposit and we part as friends, and hopefully go to work another day together. So that's what we can offer in financing. We can also create a free business plan if you have an SBA lender you want to work with, things like that. We can create all those things for you. So let's step back to leasing again. We've been through site location, kind of explained how that works. Now, again, once you identify a location that you like and we like, we're going to negotiate it for you. And the leasing managers that we have in our office, very skilled at retail leases. Each of them negotiates, I would estimate, over 100 retail store leases for us every year. They're very experienced, and they certainly look out for your best interest. Every negotiation starts with us issuing a letter of intent, which is our offer to the landlord with the terms that we would like to see in a lease agreement. And we review that with you, of course, before we submit it. And in that letter of intent, there are over 17 key provisions, all designed to protect you in the ultimate lease agreement. I'll give you just a couple of quick examples. One would be requiring the landlord to make sure that the location is compliant with the ADA. That's the Americans with Disabilities Act, which means that the space has to be handicapped accessible. And that is key when you start to talk about the restrooms in a space, because if the bathrooms are not handicapped accessible, if they don't have the handrails, they don't have the proper fixtures, commodes, and the sink, and the door isn't wide enough or the restroom isn't big enough for someone in a wheelchair to navigate it, if you have to retrofit one of those restrooms, it can cost $10,000 to $12,000 in the blink of an eye. And we don't want you to bear that cost. We want the landlord to do that. So one very specific clause in our letter of intent and your lease is going to be that the landlord guarantees that those restrooms are ADA compliant, or he will make them so. That's just one. The other key provision is a no relocation clause. And what does that mean? Well, if you go into a center, say you go into a center with a grocery store and you're a couple of doors down from the grocery store or Target or whatever the big box store might be, you like that location because that big box store delivers a lot of traffic to your storefront, which is great. Now, if that big box store goes dark, i.e. it closes, it moves to another shopping center, it maybe moves further out of town, whatever those things might be, all of a sudden you're next to a big empty box. Not good. So we want to make sure that we've negotiated what's called a dark clause for you, so that if that large tenant that creates traffic for you does go dark, you have options. You can either step out of your lease, you can have stay with a reduced rent or percentage rent until they lease that space and somebody else is in there. So the dark clause protects you in that regard in any number of ways. We were also talking a minute ago about the no relocation clause, and that's critical because, again, if you have a nice location right next to that big box store, the landlord may come to you someday and say, you know, I've got another tenant that wants to go into your space and he's going to pay a little bit more rent, so I'm going to move you way down here around the corner to the back end of the shopping center. Not fair. But if you have that no relocation clause in there, the landlord can't do that, so you're protected. And again, there are over 17 provisions like that that we negotiate in your lease, all designed to protect you. So once the lease is negotiated, we've reviewed all the terms and conditions of the lease with you, and you're in accord with them. Then you go ahead and sign the lease, and now we're ready to start developing your store. And a couple of different things start to happen now. Number one, we're going to schedule the setup of your store. We're going to coordinate, our operations department will coordinate with you and the landlord to determine when the space is going to be ready, and we will schedule our arrival as soon as possible after that. In the store setup, as I mentioned, we send a build-out supervisor and a crew out to your store. The supervisor arrives on a Sunday evening. He'll walk the store with you. On Monday morning, our crew is there. The store fixtures start arriving. Our crew is setting them up, putting the slat wall on the walls, putting all the shelving together, installing the checkouts, and so on. Usually Monday afternoon, the merchandise starts arriving, and again, they're there, they're receiving it, they're stocking the shelves as it comes in. It's a very organized and specific process. So by Friday, Saturday at the latest, your store is ready to open for business. The store supervisor is there. He's making sure that all the fixtures are assembled and put in place. All the merchandise is stocked. He installs all your interior signage. We have a beautiful sign package, and if you've looked at the website, you know that. There's perimeter wall signage, there's overhead signage, there's end cap signage, window signs, and not only for every day, but for every season and holiday as well, all the key ones, so that your store is always fresh and new each and every time the calendar page turns. You're ready for that next season and holiday. So that process takes 1 week to set up. Now, at the same time that your store, your lease is signed, you've moved to operations, and we're working on that scheduling, you're also going to be in conversations with our trainer. And they're going to do all the training for you, with you, which we do both over the phone and online. You'll get a set of online modules that you can study and execute at your own speed. You can always contact our trainers. You complete a section and she'll review it with you. She'll address any questions that you have, of course. And she will be on the phone with you early on discussing your opening orders, which is key. We want to make sure that we've reviewed all the opening orders with you. We want to make sure that you're comfortable with them. We have you approve each and every one. And the way that process works very quickly is before she talks to you, she's going to have all the information about your location, all the demographics, population, ethnicities, household income, maps of the shopping center so you can see who your co-tenants are. She will have everything that she can possibly know about that location in front of her. And then she's going to get on the phone with you and she's going to talk about all the different categories of merchandise and maybe special needs product-wise that you may have identified or you want to expand in your store, because every store is unique and every set of store orders that we write for every new store is different. So she'll talk to you, she'll have all that information. Then what she will do is she will sit down and she'll write a recommended set of opening orders, and then she'll send them to you. And you and she will review them. You can make any additions, changes, deletions that you would like, and then you approve those orders. They're finalized and we get them ready to ship out to your store. So the training is at your own speed, at your own pace, very, very, very specific. It covers every aspect of operating your business. I think in the training manual we have over 26 key sections dealing with everything from human resources to scheduling to how to train your employees and so on. Very, very extensive and very exhaustive. And again, as I mentioned earlier, the trainer is going to stay in regular contact with you for the first 60 to 90 days. After that, if you feel and we feel that you've got your arms around the store, we then move your store to a long-term support person's desk, and they will continue to perform that same level of support for you for the life of your business. We never go away. Big, big advantage. And very quickly at Christmas time, that coordinator, that merchandise support person can be a key asset for you, because if you walk into your store the day after Thanksgiving, the weekend, Thanksgiving weekend, which is a big, big retail weekend, as I know you know, and you start to look around your store and you say, oh my gosh, I'm out of medium Christmas gift bags and I'm out of red and green tissue paper to stuff them with, and I don't really have many stocking stuffer toys, and on and on and on. What do I do? Well, we don't want you to have to start calling 20 or 30 suppliers to see who has inventory on those key items that you need. Your merchandise coordinator is going to have a hot sheet for each supplier with all those key items. So she'll know who's in stock on what items. So if you say, you know, I need medium bags, I need red and green tissue, and I need stocking stuffers, she's going to look down her list and she's going to know supplier B has all the items you're looking for. Let's put an order together right now. Because I always say between Thanksgiving and Christmas, every day is like 3 days any other time of the year. And the reason that is because the sales ratchet up so high that you don't want to be out of any item for a day, because it's like being out of that item for 3 days. So very, very important, and that person is going to be a key asset for you, especially during those times of the year. Next item that I want to touch on briefly is our merchandise program, the supplier network that I mentioned earlier. I'm sorry. Can you mute your phone, please? We can hear you talking in the background. Please mute your phone. Thank you. We have over 80 suppliers located across the United States. We pick the ones that are best suited for you to ensure fast deliveries and quick turnaround time. And again, as I mentioned earlier, our merchandise program can save you 20 to 25% just by being part of our network of stores. Now, there are 3 key components to a good merchandise program, and they are value, variety, and new merchandise. And I'll talk for just a minute about each one. How do we provide value? Well, we provide value because before you ever see an item that we may suggest you might want to add to your store, we will have visited the supplier, we will have selected the best items that they have, and we will negotiate the price on those items for you. And I do a lot of that traveling myself. So if we see an item at a supplier's warehouse and I don't think the value is in the item, the quality is not good, or we can't get to an acceptable cost, you'll never see that item from us. We always want to make sure that every item that we present to you has good quality, the packaging is right, it does what it's supposed to do, and the cost is such that you can provide a nice value to your customers. So the value component is very, very important, and we do that. You can't buy goods from a catalog because you can't really evaluate them, and you can't buy them online because you can't really see them. That's why it's so important for us to travel and do that work for you, and so we do. And we hit each one of our suppliers basically once a month, hand selecting again the best new items, negotiating the cost, and then getting that information out to you. And you'll get new product information from us each and every week. We'll talk more about that in a minute. The next component would be variety. And how do we provide variety to you? Well, we do that a couple of ways. Number one, because we have 80-plus suppliers, you're going to have all the best product from all the best suppliers in our industry available to you. Not one or two or three, but every one. The second point is because because our stores do so much business with these suppliers, they will make some accommodations for our stores. And one big one is that in our industry, product is sold basically in what's called a master carton. And a master carton contains 72 or 144 pieces of one item. It's a lot of any item. And in that master carton, there are what are called inner boxes. And that inner box may have 12 or 24 pieces of an item, of that item. Our suppliers, because our stores do so much business with them, will ship inner cartons, inner boxes, as opposed to those master cartons. So instead of having to buy 72 pieces of a pizza cutter, you can buy 12 pieces or 24 pieces. That does two things. It makes sure, number one, that all that item goes out on the counter for you. You don't have to put it in your stockroom, all the excess. Number two, you're turning that item very quickly, and turnover equates to better sales. The most important thing that it does, however, is it frees up inventory dollars. So instead of buying 72 of that pizza cutter, you can buy 12, and you can buy 5 dozen other items, 12 pieces of each, thereby easily expanding the variety of products that you can carry in your store without investing any more inventory dollars. It's a huge advantage. The other thing that our suppliers will do for you is, I'll give you a quick example. If you're in Chicago, and you open your store in Chicago, and you're an independent store owner, don't have the benefit of the supplier network that we can provide, you can really only buy from suppliers in and around Chicago. Costs too much to bring product from a distance, so you're not going to be able to do that. Within our network, many of our suppliers have freight caps or freight guarantees, so no matter where they are, you're only going to pay a set amount of freight, which is, again, a huge advantage, because now while your neighbor a couple of blocks away can only buy from suppliers in Chicago, you can buy from suppliers on the East Coast, in the upper Midwest, down in Houston, in Southern California. You can have products that your competitors can't even dream of having. A key advantage for you. So we've talked about value, we've talked about variety and how we can create that. The third component, and a very key one, is new merchandise. It's often called the engine that pulls the train in your store, because what the new merchandise does is it keeps people coming back. When I shop a dollar store, and I'm sure you're very much the same, I know what I'm going there for. I have a list. Maybe I need paper towels, maybe I need toilet tissue, shampoo, maybe some snack items, and that's what I'm going there for. So I walk in the store, I grab my cart or my tote basket, and I find those items. I've satisfied my needs. That's what I went there for. But now I start to look around, and maybe I see some new items. Maybe I see a set of rubber spatulas, a 3-piece set of spatulas for $1. It looks like a nice value. Mine are all beat up, so I'll pick those up, and I go over into linens, and there are some nice sets of pot holders and oven mitts, really colorful, kind of spring-like. You know, it'll make my wife happy. It only costs $1. So I'll take those and I'll put them in my cart, and maybe I'll pick up something in the auto department too. Maybe well, I don't know, one of those big funnels that I can use to add oil to my car, which seems to go away all the time. So I'll pick that up, and a couple of toys for my grandkids. And so what's happening is now I'm buying items that I didn't know I needed when I walked through the door. But the value, the perceived value of those items is so good that I've got to have them. So I put them in my cart. So instead of spending that $6 or $7 that I intended to, now I've spent $12 or $15 in that store, because now I'm buying items again that I didn't know I needed, but they appealed to me, and so I bought them. Now here's the thing. When I come back next week or the week after that, I'm going to need my paper towels again because I've used them up. I'm going to need my toilet tissue. I've used it up, and so on. I don't need the oven mitt and the pot holders. Still have them. I don't need the toys for my grandkids. I still have them. But if you show me something new in linens or in auto care or in toys, now I'm a customer again for those items. So making sure that you have new products in your store each and every time your customers come in is a key important item. And I always recommend that at least 50% of every order that you place with the different suppliers consists of new items, items you haven't had before. And we help you by providing information on hundreds of new items each and every week. So that's basically our program in a nutshell from start to finish. We help you get funding. We help you negotiate your lease once we find you locations to look at. We will help you merchandise and set up your store. We'll train you. And then we give you unparalleled support after you're open. And that is our store development program. So let's talk for just a minute or two about what's going on in the industry. And the last few years have been very exciting in the dollar store industry. It's been a strong industry for a long time. Over $63 billion, I believe, last year. They're still tallying, but approximately that is the number that stores have done. Last year, there were more dollar-type stores opened, both chains and independents, than all other types of retail stores combined, which is phenomenal. This year, analysts estimate that 2 out of every 3 stores that open, retail stores that open, are going to be dollar-type stores. So the demand for dollar stores continues to grow. Locations are extremely available right now. You know, sadly, as a result of the pandemic, a lot of businesses that were maybe on the margins, other types of businesses, couldn't survive. So there are prime locations available. Landlords like our types of stores because they know that they're recession-proof. They actually do better in a weaker economy. And they're Amazon-proof because people need our product right away. And most importantly, from the landlord's perspective, they're pandemic-proof. Our stores did not have to close during the height of the pandemic because the items that we sell, many of them, are deemed to be essential items. Masks, sanitizers, paper products, cleaners, the list goes on and on and on. And when grocery stores struggled to get those items and you couldn't find them, and I know we all experienced that, our stores had them. So as many people as have shopped dollar stores and so on over the years, more and more people every day are finding dollar stores for the first time. And what they're finding is that the value is there, the price is there, and the convenience is there. There's a survey that was done last year, and they surveyed grocery store shoppers. And they asked them, what are the most important things to you when you shop? And they said price and convenience. Overwhelmingly, those are the 2 items that people focused on. What do dollar stores deliver in droves? Price, of course, we're the lowest price on virtually every item that we carry compared to any other retailers, number 1. Number 2, convenience. If you need 6 items at Walmart, you're going to park a half a mile away. You're going to hike across the parking lot, slog through the snow or the rain, stand in a long line, or self-check out yourself. Whereas you can go to a dollar store often and buy those same items and be in and out in 10 or 15 minutes and have a pleasant experience. So those are key markers that tell us that people like shopping in our stores. The other key thing that they found in that survey, which was interesting, is they asked these same people, they said, do you feel that during the pandemic you were price gouged by your grocery store? And over 70% said absolutely yes. I feel like I've been taken advantage of. And again, that speaks volumes to why more and more people are shopping at dollar stores, because they know there's value there. It's amazing. Interesting now, as I'm sure everybody knows, Dollar Tree is going to $1.25, which makes our 1-2-3 store more attractive than ever. The 1-2-3 store works no matter who your competition is. You always have in that 1-2-3, you have the best of the dollar items, and then you have the best of the items that retail between 1 and 3. So you can compete with Dollar Tree, you can compete with Dollar General, and you can provide great value for your customers. And right now, I can't imagine a better time to get into this business. As I say, the prime locations are available. The demand is higher than ever, and things in the news are driving people to dollar stores more and more. You know, there's inflation that we're all experiencing right now, but not in our stores, but it will create more and more traffic in our stores. That I do know. So with all of that, what I'd like to do is kind of open it up to questions. I appreciate everybody's patience while I tried to deliver some of this information to you. So now's the time for questions. If you have a question, please unmute your phone. We'll try and be as courteous as we can to others who want to get their questions in, and I guarantee we'll touch every one of them. So with that, who would like to be first?
Well, if nobody else will step up, I definitely have.
There you go. What's your name, sir?
In finance, what would be some other costs that may occur as far as getting the store up and running? So instead of just basing the amount on however much the finance is, what would I need, maybe liquid, to actually support the store and be up and running and be good to go and safe?
Okay, that's a good question. Those numbers, I'm sorry, are going to vary a little bit by store size, but let me kind of tell you how we go at that. When you come into real estate, or when you come into finance, I'm sorry, the first thing we do is we determine the level of funding that you can secure, as I might have mentioned earlier. Then we do a worksheet because we have to work backwards, because we know you're going to need some funds for other expenses outside of the cost of the store itself, as you mentioned. You know, there's rent deposits, there's utility deposits. We like to make sure you have some funds on hand so you can do a first reorder right when you open, because you want to have product running, coming back into the store. So what we do is we do a complete worksheet that shows you not only the funds that you should have on hand for the store package itself, but for all those other miscellaneous expenses. And then we make sure that you have funding or cash assets to address that. Now, most often, as I mentioned at the start of the call, you can secure financing for virtually all of that cost through our lenders. But again, if you need to bring a little bit of cash or some other resources to the table, we'll talk through what that is. And every project's a little bit different. I'm looking at one right now where the individual, I had on my desk here, they secured, it was a husband and wife, they secured between them about $120,000. So they can easily do a 1,000 or 1,500 square foot store with no out-of-pocket and still address all those other expenses that they're going to encounter or could encounter as they get ready to get their store open. So does that kind of answer your question?
Yes, it does. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Very good question. I appreciate it as well. Next question. Oh, I was going to say, if you could, when you would have a question, please just introduce yourself with your first name and where you're from. That'll help me out a little bit later. So next question.
My name is Ritesh. I am from Omaha.
From where, I'm sorry?
I had a question. Omaha, Nebraska.
Ah, very nice. Go ahead, sir.
What will be the minimum square feet that needed for a entry-level store?
Okay, good question. The minimum size that we do is 1,000 square feet. And the cost for that for $1 store is $87,900. For a 1-2-3 or a $1 plus store, it's $91,900. It's a $4,000 more for the plus, and the difference is all merchandise because the product costs a little bit more.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good question. Next question.
Yeah, this is Eamon here.
Sir, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name,
Hello?
sir. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is Eamon. How are you?
Good. How are you, sir?
Yeah, I have a couple questions. Yeah, good. What is the minimum proximity in distance between a local dollar store and another dollar store?
Okay,
is there any minimum?
Well, we look at it two different ways. We look at distance and we look at population within a mile and 3 miles of a potential location and an existing store. I'll give you a quick example. You know, it can't just be distance because the population may be so dense that the distance isn't as important. If you're in, going back to the previous gentleman, if you're in Omaha, Nebraska, population is a little less dense, so we're going to look for a greater distance separation between a potential store and any existing stores. If you're in the Bronx, New York, you could literally have a dollar store every third block and have a unique population base, because I would imagine, you know, we've looked at locations there where within 1 mile there's 750,000 people. So, but what we do is no matter where you are, we always want to make sure that the locations that we look at and talk to you about are such that you will have a unique trade area, a good population base that can support your store and for which you are the closest and best option to shop our type of store. And next question,
okay,
you had several?
Question. Yes, second question. Is any way we can see, I mean, we try to access the website, but we can actually see the product to kind of see as far as, you know, catalog product to ensure the variety that you offer, if you want to open a store, the quality, then the value. You know, do people look at the value, there's how much I'm getting for my dollar back, even though it's $1, it's still how long that product is going to last. So the quality, the value got to be there.
Sure,
how do you access that?
Okay, at this point, we can't expose the suppliers to, because that is proprietary, and obviously it's a big part of the program that we have. But we can share photos with you so you can kind of see the product, and as we move forward, you're going to have access to those supplier sites and information. So you'll have plenty of time to digest that and understand the value and the cost points of those different items. So yeah, have no concern there.
Okay, my last question, I mean, I know historically a lot of companies do have an average store sales, and I know it does vary from area to another, depending on the volume, demographics, population, and need, holiday versus peak, non-peak time. What is typically the average store's weekly sales?
Okay, and you're right when you say that it's going to vary quite a bit. Typically, when we look at a location, you know, I look at a location and I try and estimate what that location can generate in revenue. So as a general rule, we don't like to look at locations that we don't think can generate less than $190 a square foot in annual sales. But of course, with that, you know, we always want to look at the rent factors because they can vary very widely too from one area to another. So, you know, a location with a much lower rent factor does not need to generate as much volume or sales per foot to support that lower rent factor. So we do that evaluation, and it's a good question that you asked, because part of our process is as we get to a location where we're now at the final set of numbers, we know what the rent negotiated is, we know how much free rent the landlord's delivering, and then we know everything we can know about the location. Who are the other tenants in the center? Who are the competitors? Where are the competitors? Sometimes we even get the sales per foot of the shopping center. So then what I do, and I do this with many of our owners, we'll sit down and we'll kind of do like a thumbnail profit and loss statement for that specific location, because now we know things. You know, we know a lot of the big numbers. We know the rent. We can look at the location and put a pretty good point on the potential for sales or for revenue in that location. We can estimate the other expenses, utilities and so on. So I always do that because you want to make sure that the location is going to deliver a satisfactory result to you. So that's part of what we do. And again, it's hard to come up with an average because, you know, a store in, well, I don't know, Ames, Iowa, needs to do much less volume or sales per foot than a store in Orlando. because of the difference in the rent factors, but both can be very successful. So that's why part of our process, as I say, as we get close to lease execution, is to know what we believe that location can generate. Next question.
Yes, my name is David Rawl.
Yes, David. How are you this evening?
Fine, sir.
Go ahead.
I got 3 questions.
Go ahead.
I see that there's 6 to 7 states that dollar stores aren't located at. And one of the states that I was interested in was Washington State.
Okay.
Is there a reason why? Is there a reason why there's no dollar stores in the 7 states?
I don't know. I'm not sure where you would have gotten that information. I don't know of any states that don't have dollar stores, and I do know that Washington State does. In fact, we have a couple of them in Washington State right now. Where did you see that information? I'm just kind of curious.
Well, I here did my research, sir.
Okay. Well, I can tell you that dollar stores are in the state of Washington because we've opened several of them.
Okay.
It's kind of now
okay.
it might be that there might be a specific chain of dollar stores, like maybe Dollar General, that does not have stores in certain states. That could certainly be true. And I don't have that information in front of me. But yeah, no, I can't imagine that there's any state that doesn't have some type of dollar store presence. And actually, we're working with 2 clients right now in Seattle, so there'll be 2 more very shortly. Are you in Washington State?
No, I live in Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Oh, okay. Beautiful area.
Yes. Thank you. Now my second question was, what occurs with the old buildings that, because we have dollar stores down here in my area that have folded up, what happens to the buildings?
Let's see. Are they freestanding buildings, or are they part of a strip center?
Yes, sir. No.
Freestanding buildings?
No. Yes, sir. Free standing, and they. Now, one thing that occurred is the one building closed. Then they built another building just about maybe 200 feet away from it.
And
but
you know what?
The old one is still closed. The old one is still closed.
Was that a?
Right.
Was that
yes,
a? Was
sir.
Was that a? Go ahead, David. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes, sir. Well, you might. Well, I think that was a General Dollar at the time.
That's what I was going to ask you. I can tell you why it happens, because we've come across any number of those. Dollar General, when they were opening stores some years ago, when they started to grow, maybe 15, 20 years ago, they negotiated leases with different property owners, and the property owners would build the building. They would continue to own the land, and they would lease the building to Dollar General for a 10-year lease or 20-year lease, something like that. And what's been happening, it's been happening for a little while now, is as those leases come up, in a lot of cases, those spaces were about 5,000-6,000 square feet, and Dollar General now wants to do bigger stores, and I would bet that that's what happened in that one that you're looking at. They decided not to renew the lease with that property owner. Said, we're going to do a bigger store right over here because the area's good, and we know we can do good business here because we've been doing it, but we want a bigger box. So that's typically what happens, and then the owner of the building that's now vacant has to figure out what to do with it. We've done a couple of stores over the years in the Southwest where Dollar General had moved out, and they didn't do another store close by. So we were able to lease those buildings pretty inexpensively and develop one of our stores in it. And 5,000 square feet. So those are always options. And when we start to do site location work in any area, we find those because they're out there. So yeah,
Okay.
you know, sometimes that can be a great opportunity.
Okay, now my final and last question.
Mm-hmm.
What causes a dollar store to close?
Okay, good question.
Go ahead, sir.
Okay, what I've seen over the years is that there's generally a couple of reasons why that happens. I mean, the first reason is one that you might expect. People get old, they decide to retire. You would think they try to sell their business, and often I think that they do, but sometimes the business is the person, so it's a tough item to sell. That happens.
Yes, sir.
The other two things that occur, and they're kind of interesting, is, and I've seen it here on a number of occasions, sometimes despite our best efforts, a client may get locked in on a location that they just fall in love with for one reason or another, and we can't endorse that location for different reasons. You know, I worked with a gentleman a couple of years ago, and he loved the shopping center. It was a very good shopping center, and we had a location that was 2 doors down from a grocery store. I think it was a Food Lion. Just a home run location. People would fall into his doors. And he came back and he said, you know, yeah, I like that shopping center, but there's a space way down at the end of the center that's like 15 cents a foot less. And I said, well, let me look. So I looked, and the stores around it were all vacant at that end of the center. It was one of these big, long centers. So all the action was up by the grocery store.
Yes, sir.
So I said, you know, it's worth the extra 15 cents or whatever it is to be where the people are. And he said, no, I just want to keep the rent down and so forth. So I said, well, you know, I can't really recommend that. And often I go so far, and in this case I did. I even drafted a letter and sent it to him, and I call it a site exception letter. And it basically says, you know, we know you like this location, but we can't support your decision because of A, B, C, whatever those things are. Competitors too close, the location not busy enough, whatever those things are. And most often somebody will take heed and they'll say, you know, maybe I should keep looking. But in some instances, people are just insistent, you know, and I have to kind of defer because that person's there on the ground and they may be seeing things that I don't see. So sometimes what happens is people just, you know, can't get off of a second level location, and the location obviously is key to your success. So that sometimes happens. They choose a bad location. The other thing, David, that sometimes happens is people that have never owned a business before sometimes don't recognize. Sometimes just don't recognize that, you know, it's work. It's like, you know, if you do it right. My dad owned his own business when I was growing up, and he said, you know, the one thing I know is that when I work for somebody, I never worked as hard as I do now. He said, I hate my boss some days.
Right.
Because it was him.
Exactly.
You know, and I tell
Exactly.
people that, you know, I said, if you think that you're going to come in on Friday afternoon and with a shoebox and take all the money to the bank and go out boating, this may not be for you. You can do very well,
right,
but you got to be
right.
showing up every day. So that sometimes people find that owning a business
sir.
is just not for them, and that's the other big thing that I see from time to time. But our system makes it pretty easy to get from start to finish, and then you just got to put in the work. And you don't have to live in the store, but you got to pay attention to your business.
Right, I understand that.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. And it was nice talking to you, and you will be hearing from me.
All right. And anything you need, you let us know, and I'll get that information out to you. Thank you again for your time this evening, David. I appreciate it.
You're welcome, sir. Bye-bye.
Have a good evening. Yes, next question.
You too, sir.
Next question.
Hi.
Hi.
My name is Tina from Michigan.
How are you doing this evening, Tina?
I'm good, and you?
I am well. Thank you for asking. What can I share with you this evening?
I would like to piggyback off of the last gentleman's question, or basically what you brought up as far as the work that the boss would have to put in, because I'm more so interested in an investment and not potentially buying myself a job.
Okay.
From what you see from other owners, how much time do they put in on a weekly basis, just from your experience of what you've seen?
So it's a very good question. As I said, with good staff, you don't have to spend a lot of time in the store. There are key things that you do want to keep for yourself for a pretty good period of time, and one of those is the merchandise ordering. That's something that I always recommend that you keep close to your vest and not delegate that to somebody, at least for a good period of time, because you want to make sure that you're comfortable with the products, you're comfortable with the vendors, and so forth. And you'll find that once you've been through the order cycle once or twice, that really takes about 3 hours a week, maybe, to reorder the store week in, week out. You want to exercise good cash controls. Sometimes if you're going to be primarily absentee, I'm going to recommend that you put a camera system in the store, which you can get at Sam's Club for about $400, something like that you can access from your smartphone or your PC if you're sitting at home. But not inordinate amount of time. I would say if you devoted overall maybe 10 or 12 hours a week, popping into your store, seeing what your employees are doing, and again, doing the ordering yourself for a pretty good period of time. And that's not to say that you can't take one of your employees and say, here's the last invoice from supplier A. Go ahead and inventory this and tell me what our on hand is right now. So they can do that heavy lifting, and then you just place the orders, add the new items that you want to add, and that order is now complete. So, and you can easily execute your store that way. Like I said, you don't have to live in it. Some people want to be hands-on, and they are looking to, as you say, buy a job, and that's great, because then they can save some labor cost. But there's a lot of different ways to get there, and certainly you can operate that store on 10 or 12 hours a week, keeping those couple of key functions for yourself. Does that kind of make sense?
Oh, yes. And how are the stores faring currently with the labor shortage at the dollar stores?
We're finding, at least our store owners are finding, that while it's such a bizarre thing too, this labor market. I'm still trying to get my arms around it. But our stores use a lot of people that are semi-retired, that are looking for part-time work. Moms that want to work 3 or 4 hours in the morning while their children are in school. That a lot of jobs can't accommodate that. So the resources that our stores are able to tap for employees are a little bit different than the traditional. And most of our stores are primarily staffed with part-time people that work 12, 15, 20 hours. And a lot of people that want to do that can't find those types of positions because, as you say, businesses are looking for somebody who will work full-time or more. So it seems to work out pretty well. We've not really experienced a lot of angst with that, and we're not hearing that from our store owners, certainly. So, but good question. Good question. I feel bad for a lot of these businesses. I drive to work and home. I see these banners out front at Taco Bell, and everybody wants employees. I sent my stepson to a grocery store last night. I said, because I've been to this grocery store 3 times in the last 2 weeks, and I'm bagging my own groceries because they don't have anybody. So he just got hired, I think, this afternoon. We'll get him out there in the workforce. Oh golly! But yeah, it's a good question. But knock wood, our stores, as I say, can staff in different ways, and they're able to not have to experience that issue so much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much. Hopefully we'll hear from you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Laura.
Okay, we have 2, so let's flip a coin. One of you go first, and one of you go after.
You go ahead.
Let's not fight amongst ourselves.
Hi, my name is Sean. I'm calling in from Canada.
Very good.
I just have a quick question. So how does this work with people who are looking to set up dollar stores outside of the U.S. I heard you say something about how your suppliers are all over the United States. So how would this work for someone outside that area, putting into context the shipping, delivery of your product, and the fixtures as well?
Understood. Okay. And where in Canada are you, just out of curiosity?
I'm in Alberta.
Alberta, okay. The program is a little bit different in Canada and actually offshore in general. Number one, we're not able to provide financing options in Canada. You would have to secure your own funding. But if you needed a business plan in that effort, we could provide that to you, certainly. We have a fixture manufacturer in Canada and actually in BC. So we don't have to ship store fixtures and equipment across the border. It's all procured in Canada. The merchandise, most of it is going to come from the lower 48 because there just aren't, there are a few merchandise suppliers in Canada, but very few, and they don't have a wide breadth of product, and it always kind of surprises me, but it's not changed over the years. So your product would have to come primarily from the United States. Our suppliers are very familiar with shipping across the border. They do it every day. There is a duty component that you would have to deal with, and I can get you some information on that if you decide that you want to pursue this further. I always like to update that information so you know kind of what that duty factor is. I want to say it's about 7% on average. And then our pricing for our store packages is always in U.S. dollars. And we do have to add the appropriate provincial taxes, the GST and HST, whatever applies in Alberta. I'm not quite sure, but so we can certainly develop a store for you there. I'm working with a couple of individuals now. They're just starting to look for their locations. We can do some site location work in Canada, and we do have some relationships with some brokers up there. But a lot of times when we look to work outside the United States, the potential store owner does a lot of that site work, and we help negotiate the lease and evaluate the locations and so forth. So it is a little bit different than here in the States where we have better control.
Right.
And you would have to be. Oh, you're welcome. And in Canada, it's very difficult. It would be hard to do a dollar-only store because of the freight factor and the fact that you have to bring the products across the border. So any stores in Canada would be $1 plus or 1, 2, 3, which is where the business is going anyway for the most part. So, okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, if you want more specific information, just give us a call. Happy to talk to you.
I will. Thank you.
Great. Thank you. Next question.
Hi, my name is Laura. I'm calling from Mississippi.
Yes, good evening.
I want to go back to the finance.
Okay.
Huh?
Go ahead.
I want to go back to the finance. If you're not working, but you have really good credit, how hard is it to get financing?
It is certainly doable if you, as you say, if your credit is good and it's relatively clean of bumps and bruises. I'll say this because I know what your follow-up question is going to be. The rates tend to be a little bit higher because it's basically an unsecured loan that you would be doing, and I can't tell you what the rates are because I don't know, but I know typically they're going to be a little bit higher than a more traditional loan where you have employment that you can show. Not overly so, but certainly it's possible to do without a doubt. So if you have interest, as I say, you can do your application deposit, and you'll know within 72 hours, what can work for you, and then you decide whether you want to go forward with that or not.
Okay. No bumps and bruises. Just,
okay.
Over 700 credit score. So
well,
I was just wondering.
That's a pretty nice place to be. I think we could probably get a store for you.
Okay. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Yeah, give us a call. We'll get going. Have a good evening.
Thank
Next
you.
question.
One more question appears. What is the average cost of the big box?
Average cost of the big box. They start at 10,000 square feet, and that's about 330,000.
330. Okay. Okay. Good enough. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Have a good evening, sir. Thanks for your question.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Next question.
Hi, I'm Lisa from Sacramento.
Good evening.
Good evening. My question has to do with licensing, and would you help with getting the license, a small business license, that kind of thing?
We can
Or do
help.
we need to have that?
Yeah,
yeah.
Okay. Yeah, let me walk through that process very quickly. Good question. As the business owner, you actually have to apply for your business license, but it's a very easy process, and typically what we can do in operations is we'll show you where the website is, what you need to do, and if you need assistance in filling out the applications, and they're generally pretty simple and straightforward, quite honestly. I mean, I've seen some municipalities where they make it a little more difficult than it has to be, but for the most part they're not. And yeah, we can give you whatever assistance you need in that regard, and typically all you need is a business license. Sometimes some communities or municipalities, if you're going to sell packaged food and candy, snacks and so forth, they may require you to have a health permit as well, but most often not. As if you're just doing packaged
The
food.
food handling license or something?
Yeah, but for packaged food, generally they don't require that. Yeah, if you're going to have fresh product or refrigerated product, then the bar's a little bit higher, but it's not difficult to get there. So yeah, so we can assist you with that as well. So, go ahead.
And that comes after we join the team?
Yes, exactly. We would do that once you really can't start that process until you have a location in front of you and your lease is signed or ready to be signed, because the business application is tied to the location. So you can't do it in advance of that. You can do some other things. Usually once we start working with somebody in real estate, they want to set up how they're going to establish their business. Are they going to do an LLC or an S Corp or just a partnership? And those are things you can do in advance, and it's good to do that and get them out of the way. So you can then, when you're ready, when you're signing your lease, you can go get your business license. And my business is called Dollartown Sacramento, owned by Lisa LLC. And so that part is already done for you. So yeah, and we kind of prompt you on all of that too. So
okay. All right. I want to know, what's the best way to get started? While I'm waiting for other paperwork and. Yeah,
and actually, what we do in operations when you walk into real estate, when you first start in real estate, we have a list of a number of items that you're going to want to start to work on. One of them is the LLC that I mentioned, but other things that you may want to do to establish your business. But again, until you actually have a location, there's a lot that you can't do. But then as your lease is finalizing, now things are heating up. In training, they're going to be talking with you about things that you need to do to establish your business, bank accounts and things of this nature. And then in operations, our operations VP is going to be working with you, and he has a checklist of, I think, 80 items that he's going to review with you and re-review with you. And on that list, and you'll have a copy of it as well, there are things that at that point you can start on. Because there's always a little bit of a time lag between when you sign your lease and when the landlord is going to deliver the space. Usually they have some work they have to do and so on. So as we're nearing the finish line on the lease, you're going to be starting to talk to our operations people, because there are things that you can initiate at that point. So we want to not jump the gun, but we want to get that work done and have you do that work as quickly as possible so that your store can open as quickly as possible once you get the keys. So we coordinate very aggressively on those activities.
Great. I know that they have special loans out there for small business owners, and women-owned businesses get kind of tax breaks, and there's a more leniency towards getting a government loan or even a personal loan, personal business loan.
Mm-hmm.
And I would get started with that prior to, or?
Yeah, that I would start to investigate now, Lisa, because just to see what those programs look like and what the requirements are. So see if you satisfy those requirements. And I would say once you do your application deposit, you can start to dig into that. And if there's some time required to do that, we wouldn't move you into real estate until that process is pretty far down the road, so you know that you're going to have that funding. Because that's another thing. When we start to look at locations and negotiate leases, first thing the landlord always wants to see is a personal financial statement. They're going to know that you have the funding to go forward with your business. So that work kind of has to be done. It can be done after your application deposit comes in, but before we start serious work in real estate. And if you need, for that business plan, you need a location to tie the business plan to, we can identify one, work up some estimates for that, and insert that all into the business plan for you to take back to your institution for lending.
Okay.
So that's easily done. Do that all the time.
And one more question.
Yes.
Okay. Is there a set deposit to get started?
Yes, it is $500.
Or does that depend on the size?
No, it's $500, irregardless of size, and it's fully refundable, as I mentioned. So.
Oh, I didn't hear that. Oh,
yeah,
great.
You might not. Yeah, the deposit is always 100% refundable for any reason or for no reason. If you can't get financing, the deposit goes right back to you. If you decide that you don't like the financing, deposit goes back to you. If you get into site location and you don't like any of the locations that are being identified, just ask for your deposit back, you get it back. There's never a question about that. Right up to the point when you sign your lease. And once you sign your lease, that deposit becomes part of the purchase price of your store. So you never lose that deposit. It's never at risk.
Okay, and as far as location, do we have a certain amount of time to choose, or if we don't like the first, say we don't like the first 3 locations, will you provide us with 3 other locations? What kind of patience do you have for us?
Sure. Okay. We are eminently patient, Lisa, that I can tell you. But typically what happens is in about 30 days, you're in Sacramento. Within 30 days or so in the real estate process, we will have identified all the available locations. And then what we do, and you will see them, and then what we do is we screen out or filter out the ones that we know will not work. Maybe there's a competitor too close, or the asking rent is so high that we know we're not going to get to an acceptable rental rate. And then everything else in the size range you're looking for is going to be provided to you. So you will see typically in a market like yours, like I say, within 30 days, you're going to see everything there is to see. And if there's something that you like, obviously we're going to negotiate that. But at the end of that period, whatever that is, and let's just say 30 days for a minute, we will know there's no more to see. And then you can make a decision as to one of those locations that we've identified are good for you or not, and that's fine either way. Mm-hmm. And then even if you say, well, I kind of like the business, but we haven't found a good location, we can always continue to, how can I best say this? We set some checks in our research. So even if you become dormant for a little while because we've exhausted everything there is to see, we have software that continues to churn through. And if, say, a 1,000 square foot location in Sacramento shows up that wasn't available before, we'll see that. We can always go back and say, hey, Lisa, we found this, it just came available, why don't you take a look at it. But typically by that, like I say, in a market like yours, in a month or so, we're going to see everything there is to see. And there's always good options.
Awesome.
That's kind of how that process works.
Okay. And the setup, now the setup is going to take 30 days, and you supply the people to actually get the store to where it's turnkey ready?
Yes, absolutely. It takes us about a week from start to finish once we arrive. We arrive on a Sunday and typically you're ready to open on a Saturday. Yeah, and we yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
And so within that 7-day period, your people will come in and set the shelving and signs and everything that needs to be. What about the cash? Everything, cashiers, everything, and the cash registers, everything.
Everything, yeah. All the interior signage, all of that.
Will anybody be left behind? Will any of the people be left behind with us for like 60 days or whatever, so that we can find some employees of our own?
Typically, no. But here's how that works, and actually works out pretty nicely. I'll come visit from time to time.
Okay.
No, we send one of our store setup supervisors, but we do hire local labor, and almost always store owners end up hiring any number of people from that labor crew because they can actually see how they work.
Oh.
These people now after a week are very familiar with the store and the product. So yeah, that often is the case. You know, we hire temporary folks.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah, but then they end up becoming permanent employees, which is great. It works well all the way around. So.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Wow.
Thank you. I look forward to working with you.
Definitely.
Okay, next question.
Hello, my name is Charles Williams. I have a question. I may have missed my part of it. I'm calling to find out a little bit about the financing. You said that it's 100% financing. What type of FICO score do you need, and what, if anything, assets or anything like that to qualify?
Okay. What I said was we can get up to 100% financing, and it's always going to depend on your overall credit profile. If you have a 720 or better, generally you're in very good shape with regards to getting financing. But then there are other factors they look at too. Like with any loan, they look to your debt to income ratio. That's a thing that they look at. They look for that to be about 40% or less. So if I'm making $100 a week, I shouldn't have expenses of more than $40 a week, just to use easy numbers. But everyone is a little bit different. So the thing is if you want to take the next logical step, get your application deposit in. We'll know very quickly, what can work for you.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Another question I have, as far as the supplies, is it warehouse? Do you have to go actually pick up the supply delivery, or do you have, do you like an order and then they deliver it to you?
You would be ordering directly from the different suppliers, and yes, they ship to you. You don't have to go pick it up.
Okay. Okay. All right. Okay.
Very good.
Good enough for me.
Look forward to maybe talking some more and getting the store open. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Yeah, no problem.
Next question.
Okay, this is Laura again. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Another question. With the financing, and you get approved for a certain amount, what all does that amount entail? What all the money, what does it go to? Does it go to the training and supplies, and how long for the lease? How many months for the lease? What all is the money for?
Okay, well, typically the loan that you get will cover the package price, the purchase price of the store itself, and a number of the other expenses, and it's always going to be a function of how much you secure. But in a perfect world, you would secure enough money for both the cost of the store and some of the related expenses that you're going to need to take care of when you open your store, like rent deposits, utility deposits, some working capital, things like that. It does not cover your rent other than that deposit for your rent and security deposit. Most often it will cover that. But every loan is different. I've seen people that get qualified for much more money than they need. And I don't know if you were on the call earlier when I talked about the worksheet, but before we ever move you into real estate, once we know the funding that you can secure, we do a worksheet which outlines the package price that you would pay to us and all the other monies that you would need for those rent deposits, utility deposits, things like that. So you can see that you have adequate funds available to actually complete the project. And that's what that package price, of course, covers all the training and everything else that we talked about, all those 7 services. That's all in that store package, and your opening inventory and fixtures and so on, all of that. Does that kind of answer your question?
It did.
Sometimes I answer a question that nobody's asked. Yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Okay. With what you just said, basically on the financing, how much in supplies are, I realize that whatever that amount is, how much is that going to be in supplies that you purchase, your food items or whatever? Do you have an average of that?
Actually, it's
to support.
Yeah, and we do. It's not really an average, but it's by any given store size package, there's a set amount of inventory that goes into that. For example, in a 1,000 square foot $+ store, there's $19,000 of inventory at cost. That translates to about $38,000 at retail. So, but yeah, and you'll know that before we ever get started in real estate. You'll know, for the store size that you're going to be looking at. I give you a full breakdown so you can see exactly what's involved in that store size.
Mm-hmm. And do you have the option to buy outside of the products to what you guys have? If you wanted to maybe put in like cigarettes or put in a refrigerator where you want to sell beer or wine. I mean, not beer, but sodas and everything like that.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's your store and it's not a franchise, so you can add any product lines that you like. And that's a good question. I'm glad you asked that because that's something I intended to bring up and I did not. But yeah, we get people that want to add, like say, tobacco. Sometimes people want to add lottery, things like that. It's always a good idea to pick up a used 2-door cooler to sell beverages, and we work with Coke and Pepsi to provide you with coolers as well. If you put their product in it, they'll provide them usually at no charge. A lot of people look to put, if they're in an area where this can work, they add some ethnic product, grocery items and things like that. So yeah, absolutely, you can do whatever you choose in that regard.
Okay, good.
Any other questions?
Hey, David. This is Ricardo from Port St. Lucie, Florida.
Yes, go ahead.
Hey, how are you today?
Good. And yourself?
Another fantastic day here in Florida. My question is about inventory. How you can control your inventory? How you know how much items do you sell on one type? How you know how much items you have to buy, Do you have any kind of reports? Do you have anything where it can show you the gains and the loss? Do you have any kind of reports that can show you, you know, your items ABC? How that works?
Okay, good question. Couple of different ways. We don't use a point of sale system in our stores. We used to, and what we found was that most owners ended up not maintaining it. And the reason was that, I don't know if you're on early in the call, Ricardo, but a key important item in our business is to always change the inventory. So you always have new products. And I think what I said earlier was that 50% of every new order or reorder that you write should consist of items that you haven't had before. So what owners found over time was that they were spending a lot of time and energy to create the data files for their point of sale system to recapture information that they didn't need because they were never going to rebuy those items. So what we do is we set up a hand system where you can track your sales by day, by week, by month, by category, which is really what you need to know. You need to know that 10% of your sales are coming from hardware and 20% is coming from health and beauty aids. So you can buy that way. You know, when you do your orders for the week, you want to make sure that 20% of the inventory that you are buying or the dollars that you're spending are in health and beauty aids because you don't want to lose that business. And there's a couple other things that we do too. We set up what's called a purchase log with you where every time you get an order in, you enter all the information about that order, and it's not very detailed at all, but how many items were on the order? What was the total cost of the order? What was the average cost of the order? Because that's the other thing that you really want to watch as you operate your business is your average cost. Because your average cost, if it starts to creep up, it means your gross profit is creeping down, which is not good. So that's a number. When I had my own stores, I monitored that number every week and every month because I wanted to make sure that my average cost of goods was right here. And you can do that, but you have to be diligent in your buying. You know, there are always items that cost more than what your average cost needs to be or what you want it to be. But there are many other items and categories where the product cost is much lower. So you got to make sure you run a balanced operation all the time. And in training, we spend a lot of time, Ricardo, walking through how to accomplish that. So yeah, have no fears about that. The key is to buy what you're selling, control your average cost, and when I say buy what you're selling, buy by category what you're selling. And the cash registers that we have in the stores will give you your percent of totals every day. You'll know how many dollars you did in hardware, how many you did in housewares, and so on, so that you can track that business for yourself.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. You have a great evening, sir. Enjoy the weather there. Yes, next question? Well, okay, if we have no other questions,
I guess I have one question. I have one question.
Sure, go ahead. Who's
I'm
this?
in California, East Bay. This is Charles Williams. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
I'm in California, East Bay. Is there any stores available that if I wanted to go in and see the operation that you know of? And you may just want to just probably let me know later because it might not, you know, have the information on hand.
Yeah, I would have to look to see, but I'm sure we have something relatively close to you. Can I get your number? Well, okay. I'm sure, have you talked to anybody here in our office? Because I'm sure we have your contact information if you have.
Well, I did, but it's been a while. So let me give you my number.
Yeah, please do.
All right, it's 510 510 860 2833.
2833. All right, I will try and get back to you. Charles, it may be Monday. I'll try and get back to you tomorrow, but I will absolutely reach back out to you.
That's fine. Thank you.
Good. All right, thank you very much. And again, if we have no further questions, if you do, that's great. If not, I just want to thank everybody for your time this evening. I know everybody's busy and it's late, and I appreciate your time and energy and great questions all the way around. If you want to reach out to me separately, my number here is, if you want to jot this down, is 702-637-8255. You can always call me, or you can call your sales representative here in our office, whose name should have been in contact information would have been on the email that you received earlier in the week. And you can always call me again if you choose to. I hope to have the opportunity to work with a number of you to open some stores. It'd be great. And again, thank you for great questions. Reminder, if you do your application and deposit by next Wednesday, you do qualify for $1,000 in free merchandise when you open your store. So nice little incentive if you're ready to go now. And again, thank you all for your time, your energy, your great questions, and look forward to working with you. Have a great evening.